We will begin with bending of the lock washers and remove the nuts of the clutch thrust ring assembly and lift away the bridge bars. Then we remove the operating pistons, which is facilitated by activating the operating valve lever. We remove the nuts between the main and rear housing and gently tap the main housing with a soft mallet. We tap the brake ring with a soft drift. Originally, the brake ring should have no gaskets. If it does, be sure to replace them. Lift out the clutch sliding member, the sun wheel and the planet carrier. Lift out and dismantle the unidirectional clutch and its thrust washer. Remove the pinion lock screw. Use a purpose-made puller to withdraw the speedometer pinion assembly. Next is time to remove the coupling flange nut. Coupling flange is removed. We press the annulus out. The rear oil seal is removed. The annulus front bearing is pulled off. A hook wrench comes in handy when you want to loosen the drain plug. Lift out the oil strainer. Next we'll remove the solenoid bracket cover. The solenoid lever is easiest removed by punching a screwdriver in its gap. Withdraw the distance collar. Be careful loosening the solenoid bracket screws a little at a time in order to safely release the strong spring behind it. Remove the spring and its locating tube. Next we remove the non-return valve plug, spring, plunger and ball. Remove the screws and the plug of the oil pump. Use a puller to remove the oil pump body. The oil pump plunger also comes loose. Remove the core plug. Next we remove the operating valve plug, spring, plunger and ball. The operating valve comes out. Pay attention to this small hole. It must be kept clean. We start the reassembly by pressing the annulus into the rear housing. Turn the rear housing over. Position the annulus end float washer and tap the rear bearing home. The permissible throwout at the coupling flange is 0.02 of a millimeter. This is achieved in a lathe. Also clean the oil seal area. Trial fit the coupling flange with the correct torque and check that there is no bearing drag. Disassemble again. Smear the outer edges of the oil seal with Vaseline, lubricate with oil and drive it home. The coupling flange is permanently mounted. Bend only the upper leg of the cutter pin, as this will facilitate any future dismantling. Always install a new oil seal in the speedo pinion assembly. Install a new O-ring. Lubricate the pinion and insert it in the housing. Use the puller tool to locate it correctly and secure with lock screw. Lubricate and put thrust washer in place. Assemble the unidirectional clutch. A zip tie helps keep the rollers in their in position. Removal of a planet gear in order to be able to install a new thrust washer. Remove the remains of the cutter. Put the thrust washer in place and reassembly the planet gear. Lubricate the annulus and replace the planet carrier. It's very important that the marker on each planet gear aligns like this. Replace the sun gear. Put the circlip in place and tap it gently. Relined clutches are available, but for this one we reuse the old one. Press home the bearing and mount the circlip. The time has come to install the oil pump. We use a special tool in order to align the screw holes. Lubricate the O-ring for the operating valve shaft and install the lever. A sealant is applied and the core plug is knocked in place. The non-return valve ball is seated. The plunger, spring, washer and plug is put in place. An uprated accumulator piston is lubricated and pushed home. Put the uprated springs in place. It's a sealing compound for the gasket. Lubricate the O-ring and assemble the solenoid bracket. Put the oil strainer in place and tighten the oil plug. Lubricate the O-rings and push the operating pistons in place. Lubricate the operating valve, put it in place, followed by the ball, plunger, spring, washer and plug. Apply grease to the steel and bronze thrust washers and put in place. Put the sliding clutch assembly in place. Apply sealant to the rear housing and replace the clutch brake ring. Replace the main housing. Replace the distance collar. It is a good idea to replace this screw and nut as it has a strange English size that won't fit any spanner. A clutch return spring set. Check the sun gear end play. If it's excessive, machine and fit a thicker bronze thrust washer.